program is part of the Scene Project's podcast network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Well, welcome into another exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today is a fellow podcaster, Pete A. Turner from the Break It Down Show. Welcome in, Pete.
Yeah. Hey, man, thanks for Hey, the thing I always say, because and I'm really talking to you right now, Bubba, it's hard to do what we do. You do it way bigger than most people. So anybody who's watching this, pay attention, because Bubba knows what he's doing. It's great to be on your show. I know what it means to take the time and the sacrifice to do all this stuff. How frustrating, how heartbreaking. I know, because I've done all those things. And to be able to do what you do, if nobody else tells you today, brother, thank you for doing what you do. You are trying to make the world a better place, your community a better place. And the fact that I get to be part of that, are you kidding me? Hell yeah, I'd love to do that. So anybody watching, also thank you for your time, because we're all competing for time. And the fact that you're taking any time with me is something that I appreciate. So to all of you out there listening or watching, thank you for participating with us. I just, it's easy to forget all these things, man. I learned a thing from my buddy Jay, who's a professional comedian, nationwide act. And he learned it from Buddy Hackett, who kind of was his mentor. And he's like, well, Buddy would say, like, people come, like, they might choose to come to your show. It might be the only thing they spend their money on that month. And they're there with their girl, and they're trying to, like, have a great night. Look at them, wave at them, wave at the balcony, even if there's not a balcony there, because it means you're connecting with the people in a way. It's too easy to forget all that stuff, right? And so I take that attitude here with what we do on these crazy shows and just say to everybody, I hear you and I see you out there. I know what it means to take your time, to take this time to listen to us. I'm not going to waste it, and I'm definitely going to appreciate it.
And that is exactly what people are craving in society these days, is to just be heard, to be seen, to feel like somebody cares. And that's a big reason why we started this show, Pete. So thanks for all of those beautiful words off the top here. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you and to get to know you and your show a little bit. So give us a little bit of your backstory. How'd you kind of fall into the podcasting world? And then we'll pick it up talking about your show, the Break It Down. I love it already.
Yeah. The Break It Down show is awesome. I'm so fortunate that this thing even exists. We've gotten past all of the big hurdles. Now all the hurdles are just stuff for me to clear out, right? And I've become pretty good at clearing hurdles. How did we get started? I don't know. I came back from war, and I was like, I got to stop going to war. I need to start telling stories, because I got to do so many amazing things. And then I met other people who had done amazing things. And I just like, why would I ever stop talking to all these incredible people who are motivated, who are creating things, who want to help the next person create something? And so I just keep going, man. I posted an episode today. You'll appreciate this. It's a thing called Porch Fest. I think it's like a nationwide, like, get people to First Street kind of movement. In my hometown that I love is putting their second one on. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'll come down and support that. Is it free for me to do that? No, it takes time. I was recovering all Sunday just from the travel, because I drove 10 hours inside of 24, and so it's like, man, to go do this, right? I got maybe 10 hours inside of like 30 hours, but I was up for 20 hours straight one of the days. And then I got up and I was exhausted, but I don't care, because I want things like Porch Fest to succeed. I want the local businesses to succeed. I want people to come out and see my hometown and how great it is. And all these musicians that are going to get time. Man, I love stuff like that. And so the Break It Down show isn't all that, but I am trying to, and I saw your guys' motto in your intro video, I'm just trying to enrich lives as much as I can. And I provide opportunities. I can't force anybody to do anything. But what I try to do to Break It Down show is find things that are interesting, fascinating, neat, build friends, and bring those friends back over and over and over again, so that we all can get to know that, like, if you read the most impactful book of your life, and it was, someone that was written last year, I can get that person on my show and talk to them about that book. And then I can bring my friend who's like, I read this most impactful book, and they're waving at my face. I'm like, well, let's get that person on my show. My friends who know that I have a show have no idea that I can just simply reach out and almost every single time get that person on my show, and now put them next to that person that they admire so much.
I really like that. I really
Yeah.
like that, and that's kind of what we just launched a new show called Love Noise on our network,
Mhm.
and that's kind of what it is there too, right? A chance for us to go live on our YouTube and to really start to engage more with our fans. So many of these episodes, as you know, being part of the business, I batch episodes. I got 16 interviews this week. Some of this content won't get seen for months and months and months, right? So by the time that
Yeah.
it actually airs, sometimes I've kind of forgotten about doing the interview at all, and it creates a little bit of a lag, right? But
Yeah.
I really wanted to do was to start engaging with our fans. I've only been doing this for 18 months, Pete. So,
Mhm.
my first goals, that first hurdle, right, was 100 episodes. Can we shoot
Yep.
enough content to release 100 episodes? We got there in like 9 months. And then it was like, okay, we kind of know what we're doing. I think it's time to take this to video. So started researching YouTube. We really went onto
Yep.
YouTube right about the turn of the year. And now we have over 225,000 views on our YouTube page. We have 350
Amazing.
almost subscribers, if not more than that by now. So we're growing
Yeah.
this community. And what I need to kind of sit back and tell myself a lot of times is like, look, some people take 10 years even to get this far, right?
Yeah.
That don't know all
Yeah.
of these things and have learned all of these, but I invested in it wholly right off the jump. I had already quit my job at the factory. I had, I thought I was going to be a rock star, Pete, to be perfectly honest. I had a bunch of gigs last
Yes.
summer. I was out there in the world and just playing a lot of shows and doing our thing. But as it wore on me, right? The
Mhm.
constantly performing for 4 hours a night, 5, 6 nights in a row, some of these places where I was like, man,
Yeah.
I don't know that I have it in this music business like this anymore. And it kind of pushed me into doing the podcasting um more and kind of putting the music career in the sidecar, if you will. It's still riding along. I still play shows. I'm still able to share my art, but it's so much more important to share other people's stories and to share their art and to have that there because nobody else is doing this. Not in my community. There's not other
Mhm.
people that are, putting 300 other artists on their show in a year. We have over 250 episodes. Most of them are new faces every single time. So you talk about impacting lives and changing the world around you. Brother, we couldn't be more aligned in our mission. And I have to say, thank you for your service as well, not just to our country, but to your communities that you're serving. It's almost even more important, the work that you're doing now, than the service that you gave to our country in wartime. I think we
Oh,
do a lot
thank
more
you.
solving problems with love than with bullets and guns.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. And one of the responsibilities I have now is to put that effort here, right? And I've been tasked with this by a number of very notable people, but like, yeah, help us here. Put that effort that you put into solving problems in Iraq and Afghanistan or whatever it is, put that effort here. And I do that. By the way, as you were talking, I was listening to you and I just published a short because you got to exist. You got to beat that heart on your show. And so I'm not going to do this throughout the show, but I'm like, oh man, I didn't put this out. I can do this real quick while Bubba's talking. And I published a short while we were talking. And that is what happens here, right? Like in our world, I have to produce. If I don't produce, I don't exist. If I don't exist, I can't help anybody. I can't enrich anybody's life, including my own. And so I, I wouldn't normally do this. I would just let it ride, but I knew you would get it and it would be an important lesson. Like I went in and I listened to everything you said about all of that, the work that you guys have put into it and the batching of shows and all that. So I heard everything you said, but I also have the ability because look, we fly an airplane. We're one man bands. I'm rubbing my belly and patting my head right now, and I got
Chewing
cymbals
bubble
between my
gum and
knees.
chewing bubble gum and playing hopscotch
Yeah.
too at the
Yeah.
same time.
You know what? In our world, we put our pants on two legs at a time because
I
we
jump
nobody's got
right
time
in.
for one leg in it. Yeah, nobody's got time for one leg in it. So, and that's why I didn't. I bring that up is we know where the work is, right? And this is one of the big lessons for anybody in the podcast world or creative world, or like you're going to start a band, right? You start a record company. You have to figure out where the work needs to be today, tomorrow. What are the things like it's fun to get, man, and then we'll be at the Oscars and I'm going to wear that shiny jacket. Like you're too far ahead. What's right now? What do we need to be doing? And right then I needed to publish a short because I didn't do it at 9 o'clock. Right now I'm in the West Coast, so that is a big thing. And when you're looking at batching, and this is just me just talking to you, podcaster to podcaster, you need to push more shows out per week. You need to
I
get
was
that heart.
trying to build the back catalog, Pete. We were at one point, because I had 100 episodes behind me when I jumped onto YouTube. We were
Yeah,
releasing content every single day. I was putting out an episode
yeah,
every day just to try and get that stuff out there. Summers get
yeah.
busy for me. I do a lot of traveling. I was kind of out and about,
Hey,
so I kind of pull
yeah,
back and make sure that we have enough content to get through. But we're going to blow it out of the water this year. And I have
good.
4 networks, right? I have different
Yeah,
networks. So when I'm batching episodes, it's not all specifically for the scene projects. Some
sure.
may be for the Patriot Broadcasting Project, which is kind of our news and politics. We're dipping into the
Uh-huh.
local and state level scene. I've had state
Nice.
representatives on. We've had hopefuls come on our show. I have one actually later today with another city council hopeful or a
That's great.
congressional
That
hopeful,
sounds
right?
great.
Well, and then we have the Get Better Together project, which is more a platform to have long form conversations and shedding our
Hmm.
shit, if you will. A
Yeah,
shout out to my
yeah, yeah,
friend
yeah.
Fire White for saying that on my friend
Let,
Willie's
let me
podcast.
jump in here because I do very similar things here. Maybe not as concentrated as you, but I think it's valuable. We always talk about the they ought to do this or they should do that. And so when you go and you meet the they, you realize, hey, these are real people and they're really trying to solve real problems. And maybe if you all, instead of wanting somebody to do something, if you got off your couch and you went down and you had lunch with that person. I love to talk to city managers. These are highly credentialed people. They're often lawyers. This is a big deal, at least here in California, to have a city manager because they're trying to run this organization. And there's never enough money. There's never enough people. There's always personality, and these folks, God bless them, man. That's not an easy job. And so when you talk to them and you understand the reality that they work within, the stuff that you're thinking that they ought to do is almost insignificant, and if you're not willing to go out and help and contribute and speak up about it, then it isn't going to exist. And maybe it doesn't need to. Maybe they need to fix sidewalks downtown before they go out and paint this crosswalk or whatever it is. And so by creating a show like you have and like I do, and you bring on not just the president of the United States, but also like, hey, this is the mayor. Hey, this is the city manager. Hey, this is the emergency manager from your county. Do you know how hard that job is and how much responsibility? And quite often in a lot of the nation, that's a second job within the government job that they already have. It's like, oh, Andrew, the emergency manager. And so to understand what these guys have on the line, and then when an emergency shows up, you know, and they're like, but I'm also the dog catcher. Like,
Well, and I live in
so maybe,
rural South Dakota, Pete. So everyone wears multiple hats around here,
yeah,
and we know intimately, right? Our people on city council, and my town's a
yeah,
1,000 people. South Dakota as a
right.
whole probably has less people in it than the city you live in, right? We're 800,000
Oh,
or less
probably.
in the entire
Yeah.
state of South Dakota, right?
There's
So
3.5 million people in my county. 3.5 million,
it's crazy. There's
So yeah,
800,000 in my state. It's 500 miles
right,
long and
right.
400 miles tall.
And this is part of this point. This is what I figured out is I figured this out by walking through villages in Afghanistan and talking. I used to be a spy. That's what I did, right? So I got to know a lot of people and I would see what's the ground truth is, right? And when we do that for ourselves and we talk to the guy who's the dog catcher slash the veterinarian slash the emergency manager slash the, whatever, plays piano at the church, all of a sudden you realize like I should just be helping this guy, not criticizing him, or oh my gosh, how do we help you, or where's and people become more human and we become more graceful and we become more understanding that all of these problems there's not enough to go around. I certainly don't want to go mow all the lawns and the government lawns around the town. Why would you want to do that? But you do it. Oh my God, thank you. Who's cleaning these toilets at the city park? Oh my God, there's someone doing that. You don't even think about these things. Someone's out there when it's cold, and I know it gets cold where you guys are, and they're doing whatever it is to make sure that everybody in town stays safe. We lose sight of how hard that work is, how thankless, and it's not great paying work. It's all right, right? But when you get to know these folks and they become your neighbors and you can have coffee with them and they get to talk about something besides just their work, man, you really have made a connection and tied that community together. And our shows do stuff like that. My personal attitude about all these things, I'm the nicest guy in the world when I go to my grocery store. I'm never in a rush. I know everybody's trying to get me through there. They're trying to get me great products. And when I see my grocers, I consider them my friends, and I get to know them over time. And when they leave, I'm sad that they leave. One of my favorite cashiers works tonight. Guess what? I'm going to shop tonight at my local grocery store because I love that dude. And we have just these little 30-second conversations, but that's what it means to get off this damn look. We need these things, right? But get off this damn thing and go out and get to know your grocer and understand who they are and what they do. And maybe they need help with something, maybe they don't, maybe they need just to get out of the house and have a good time. And you're like, well, why don't you come down to this park where they have all these bands all summer long? And you're like, someone does that. I mean, you know how this is. You put together an event and everybody's like, you put together an event? When? You're like, I've been working my eyes out trying to put this thing together. Just come down. All we want you to do is have a great time, right? All this stuff goes into what we do and how we live.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm really inspired by a guy, maybe one of the original podcasters, even though he doesn't get credit for it. Speaking of originals, I got to meet Adam Curry at Podcast Movement, and his whole spiel was serve a small community. You don't need a million followers. You don't need to be Rogan. You don't need to chase these CPM models. You can go find support in your local community. But I'm so inspired by a guy like Mike Rowe, right? That has been doing this with his shows, Dirty Jobs, and all of these things for years. And I heard a podcast episode with him while I was traveling this summer, and just continue to be blown away by the man and what he's doing to bring awareness to not just the trades, but to the trades people, right? And getting to know the people behind theirs and sharing inspiring stories. And it really drives me to want to do more. Pete, you'd be very proud of us. This week, we started a show with our local high school football team to highlight some of the plays from the weekend before. I got the coach who my wife works at the school, so we work out there in the high school gym. And the high school football coach is there, and we start talking ball, and I just get a wild hair, right? Where I'm like, hey, would you like to sit down with me on camera and to talk a few plays through for me? And, I'm kind of a simpleton, I'm a football fan, but I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? So we got to stand in front of the screen and have him do the plays for me. And then I'm able to get access to all of those highlight videos and to produce the show to make it look like, it's not perfect like an ESPN show would be, but you could see the potential. And that's where I'm kind of throwing it out to the community. And I was like, look, I need support to do this. It took me an entire day to edit all of this, right? But if you can support this, I am more than willing to give my time into this and then turn it around. We can make a scholarship. We can make this a cab of the week to accentuate and highlight these young student athletes and to turn this into really something amazing. So I'm so in love with what I'm doing, Pete, and it's really thrilling for me to talk to someone else that's so on fire for this trade that most people still don't really understand what it is, right? It's not just it's not just us talking to our friends and God bless all the people with different style of podcasts. Mine is about serving the communities, and my communities are varied. I have my music community. I have my, statewide community, which is the Patriot Broad, but I also have my community of people who are, addicts or former addicts or have been to prison like I have, or have, people that are coming from a life that's not picket fences and the leave it to beaver kind of lifestyle, right? My life was hard and I've been through a lot. And the only way we keep other young men and young women from going through that is by sharing that now and not waiting until it's too late. So I've been having a great time doing this the last year and a half of my life. And I can't imagine at this point doing absolutely anything else. This is all I think about all the time. And it's not about me. It's about how I can serve these communities and continue to be a blessing to others.
It's true, man. And I have tried a number of times to quit, and I just can't do it. I'll back off. That's kind of how I refill my pond. But I put out a show 5 days a week, like that's my pace. And I can maintain that. And then I'm like, I've got to back off because that 5 will grow into 6. It'll grow into 7. And I'll just be booking people. And my show is so established and successful. And again, no one's ever heard of my show. Here's the thing, everybody. Like, if you want to get to where I'm at, 10 years, 2,000 plus episodes, it takes a long time, it takes a lot of work, but there's benefits. And along the way, I've met incredible people. My life has been changed forever by my podcast. The people that I know, the people that I can still meet, the rooms that I get to get into while we were sitting here. Right?
Pete, I'm covering a PGA Tour event this week because of this silly podcast I started, right? Where it's just like, what is this world that we live in now? But when
I got a
Elon Musk
text.
said, "We are the media," I really took it to
Well, he's
heart, and
right.
I was like, "Oh,
He's right.
you're right."
Yeah. When we were sitting here, I got a text, "Hey, get a hold of the Ukrainians. I think I've got a market for their drones." That happened because of my show while we were talking here, right? Like this is a crazy. I live in a crazy world where I'm like, how in the world are you and I talking right now, Bubba? And we're talking about podcasting, and I get this potential purchase order, right? And I'll get a little taste of that deal, right? Hopefully it happens. So, and I'm not like an arms dealer, right? But I am a spy. I do connect people. I understand the value of these things, and people start to appreciate the things that I get to do, and they ask me to do other things for them. I'm not doing anything illegal here either. This, as weird as that might sound, this is all legitimate business, right? And it comes from the podcast thing. So if you're thinking about making a podcast, look, not everybody gets to do it. Not everybody gets to get 10 years in. Not everybody gets to do what you've done in 18 months. And maybe you're not meant to be a podcaster. Maybe you need to go cut hair. Maybe you need to be a pipe fitter. Maybe something else. But give whatever it is a shot, and it's all right to fail at it, and just say, hey, that didn't work in that form, right? Let me try again, or let me never go back to that again. I haven't touched a golf club in 20 plus years. This is a true story, right? I lived in Vegas. I worked for a golf magazine. I could play all the golf I wanted. I'm on a world class course with some of my friends from out of town. In the middle of the seventh hole, I said, "I'm done playing, fellas." And they're like, "Oh, you're gonna play to the turn?" And then I'm like, "No, I'm done right now. You all will figure out how to get around on your own cart." But me in this cart, and my daughter was hanging out with us. We're headed back to the clubhouse, and, and I never swung a club. Never had it. I wasn't mad at golf. I just had reached my lifetime limit on what I had to do in golf, and I had never touched it again. Right. So it's fine to quit something and say, "Hey, that's not what I do." You want to persevere, but also you don't have to suffer to persevere. You can say, "Hey, this podcasting isn't for me. I don't see the path. I want to support Bubba." And here's a great thing: support Bubba. Like I've got this thing that scrolls across my thing that no one ever talks about it. I have a PayPal account, and if you want to put money in it, anybody can. I'm not pitching anybody right now. I'm not going to give you the link, but that little bit of help goes directly into my pocket, right? And I take that money and I might buy gas, or I might buy a new microphone because we need microphones all the time. All this stuff, it all comes from that community connection that we create. And I'm telling you, man, it's this world that we get to do. Elon's right. We are the new media, and we get to hold other media accountable. I'm on X all the time, and I see these reporters do their because I'm a spy. I know a lot of people. I've learned a lot about information operations, psychological warfare, right? And so when I see their headline, and then I see the way they write the thing, and I'm like, you guys are lying to people. You're not being honest. Like we see a lot of this with the Israel Hamas war, right? And there is so much misinterpretation, purposeful, that happens. There are people that do focus on that stuff. You guys have your show that sounds like it deals with those things. This is what the new media looks like, and this is a chance for anybody to be involved in these things. And by the way, your high school football show, great idea. Support a local business, support a local team, whatever it is. That's a great way to do it. And maybe there's someone at the high school. It's like, I would love to get involved. Now you got a little protege. You teach them. They're going to fall out and fail. Who cares? You
Pete,
create
that's
an
the best
opportunity for
part is
someone to
that
do it.
the high school's already doing it. They're already broadcasting all the games on YouTube. And one of the students, I realized when we were at the volleyball game last week, they have a student
Yeah.
who's doing the broadcasting. It was her first time on there and everything. And I just went up and was like, look, I can't hear the broadcast, but you're doing a great job, right? You're doing
Yeah.
awesome. Like, just keep on going. And now, having talked with the AV teachers and what they have going on, that I'm able to go and, offer my thing. Like, do you guys ever talk about podcasts and podcasting? And like, no, we don't. I would love to at least come in one day and to deliver a talk and to tell people about what I do and to show them what I do now working in the school. And we have plans to take it into all the different sports. I mean, they deserve it. These kids deserve it. And there's no reason that just because you live in a small town doesn't mean that you're not worthy of being highlighted, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
like I said, the further you get into it, the harder it is to pull yourself out. The podcasting world's like quicksand, Pete.
It is true. Your mind will always spin, and it will distract you. But yeah, you do like what that is like the next pro level step is how do you focus on where the work is and what shows deserve your attention. I talk a lot about filling up a plate. Like, if your plate is full and you want to do a podcast, okay, what are you going to do about that? Because you can buy some capacity, because that's what it sounds like you need to do. Or You have to get something off your plate. And maybe it's something easy, like I'm just not going to be on the phone for 5 hours a day, you know? I mean,
Right.
and look, we all fall into that trap. So now you're on the phone for 2 hours a day. You still get to go do all that stuff. But for the other 3 hours, you work on your podcast. And then you start to change your life in a positive way. Or you go work out for 1 hour and then you spend 2 hours in your podcast. Or you take your girl out and you go for a walk, or you go down and get a pop down at that one cafe that you've been meaning to go to, and you support that local business. You don't got to spend $1 million, but you do got to get out and go do other things. So if your plate is full with a bunch of nonsense and junk, get that junk off there and see what you do at that time. And maybe it won't be podcasting. Maybe it won't be playing that guitar, but maybe you decide to write a song a day just to see what happens, with no goal other than, can I sit down and write 365 songs in 365 days starting right now? I've always wanted to write. Okay, great. And you do it, right? And if you do nothing with those songs, that's all right. You can always say, I spent a year and every day I wrote a song. Every single day I wrote a song, you know? And even if you just did DCG and repeated those chords all throughout every single song, it doesn't matter, because you did something. And it's so much more than, and there's nothing wrong with, I scrolled to my phone this morning too. All right. So I'm not saying that, but
Right,
I'm
right.
saying
Well, I'm laughing so
you're
hard
doing
because
it.
I had a friend, Clayton Ryan, friend of the show, that started off on that at the beginning of the year, and he got about midway through April. He's like, I got like 50 songs now that I need to record and to
Right.
get them out there. And it's
Right.
like, brother, think of that output is just incredible, man, because he was writing some really good material. They weren't throwaways, and now it was like,
Right.
well, holy cow, like. I need to slow down, right? I need to change my shift my
Yeah.
attention a little bit. Pete, we
Yeah.
we could sit here and talk all day, man, and it's been such a
Yeah.
pleasure getting to know you a little bit here. I know we'll be talking again in the future, but before I let you go, give you a chance to tell everybody where they can find you online and where they can check out your show.
Yeah, super easy. Just type in P. Dave Turner. I'm on X a lot, and YouTube. You can find me in the other platforms and stuff. And if you just want to ask me a question, Pete at breakitdownshow.com. Super simple. I'll say it again, Pete at breakitdownshow.com. And I'm glad to talk to you about whatever it is that you need. I don't care about your idea. I care about what you're going to do. And if you're going to go get busy and get to work, then that's great. And watch my show. If my show is your cup of tea, awesome. I'd love to have you. We'll have a great time. You'll love what I do. And if I'm not, hey, awesome. It's all right. There's a ton of people you can go out and support. There's attention for everybody. I hope you all have a great day. Thank you all for listening to me rant and rave about this great life of being podcast host. But man, I appreciate you, Bubba. Thank you.
Man, I appreciate you, Pete. Thanks for being part of the scene.